फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज का जेरोक्स हो गया है.
5 रुपी 10 रुपी में तब आइडेंटिटी सेल होता था उस टाइम.
So fresh opinion, and that's what we are here for. So मजा आ गया. As a lender, you always have to be careful. It's always better to do some extra due diligence to find out कि यार is everything okay or not, and then say like ठीक है, everything's okay, it's not a problem.
Most of the company they wanted to work on the stealth mode. यार ये stealth mode क्या होता है भाई? काम कर रहे हो या नहीं कर रहे हो?
Right.
ऐसा क्या चिराग है जो छिपा रखा है और अभी निकलेगा?
How do you navigate when your regulators or when your industry bodies run by governments who are not for profit are getting into business and eating your lunch? If you want to start up, or if you have that kida in your mind, please do start and you will figure it out on your way. If not, you would have learned something. There's nothing fancy, there's nothing Elon Musk banna hai, Steve Jobs banna hai. It's just very raw and truthful and honest to yourself and what you want to do, and having that nature transpire into everything that you do. Hey. Thanks for tuning in to Fintech Quotient. I am Raunak Dembla, your guide through India's vibrant fintech scene. From the hustle and bustle of Mumbai to tech parks in Bengaluru and swanky offices of Delhi, we'll explore the stories of the entrepreneurs shaping the future of fintech. Whether you're an industry veteran or new to the fintech world, we've got something for you. Let's get started with today's episode of Fintech Quotient's Spotlight series. Hey everybody, Raunak here from Fintech Quotient. Today in another episode of Fintech Quotient Spotlight, we are in conversation with Shobhit Goyal, the founder of BeFISC. Hey Shobhit, it's lovely to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us and having this conversation with us today, yaar.
Thank you so much, Raunak. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here. I think you're going to be the first founder from the infrastructure and the KYC space to be on the podcast. So very excited to have this conversation with you. And we ended up meeting for the first time at GFF. So let's kickstart with that. How was GFF for you?
It was an amazing experience. That was my second time, but with BeFISC, with my own brand, that was a very first time. We have launched our company over there itself. We got a lot of visitors. I think we got 1,100 visitors, which was never expected. In any kind of event. GFF is next level, obviously. And the validation that we received about our company and the product line and all that, it's amazing. It's amazing experience.
Yeah, I remember our first episode, our first GFF, right, in 2022, and it literally opens you up to the world. So you're put on the world's platform, and the world opens up to you. So it's a fantastic experience. So yeah, kudos and all the best to you for your journey there. So Shobhit, let's get started with your journey, right? So let us understand, who are you? Who is Shobhit Goyal? Who is the entrepreneur Shobhit Goyal? What are you doing? What's your journey been like so far? If you could quickly take us through your journey, that would be great.
Sure, Raunak. So I would say, let me start with my journey from my education background. Why I'm saying that, you will realize very soon, right?
Okay.
So in my hometown, it's a very small hometown. I come from Aligarh, right? I have been a part, my education, the whole education, the schooling has happened in Hindi medium, right?
Acha,
so the entire background was literally very different. No one have ever thought of that someone will come out from that zone and start an IT company out there, right? So that is one thing I wanted to highlight, and that is one thing I wanted to let other people know in all of these small towns, that is possible, right? Anyone can actually start a company, and they can be a part of an IT company as well, right? They can run an IT company. If even though you are not from BTech background, I'm not from BTech background, and still I'm running IT company.
Yeah.
So all of these things are there, right? To give you a quick understanding, I have spent half a decade in IT services as a sales and healthcare, US healthcare, right? There was nothing that I was working on fintech sector in India, right? I work with one of the company called Innovator. It's a unicorn now. It's India's first unicorn. I worked in the initial stage with this company and understood how the startup works, and that gave me a vibe. Like let's just start something your own, right? And that's where I have just stopped working for other companies and started my own consulting firm, right? And that's where the fintech journey gets started, right? Yeah. That was a very interesting part for me, because I realized a lot of things because fintech was building at that time in India, right?
Which year was this, Shobhit?
That was 2019, 2018, 2019. right?
Okay.
1819 was like people were, looking
Yes.
for
Yes.
different kind of product lines, different kind of payment instruments and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
The KYC was a wide space over there, right? So, I mean, the companies started coming into KYC, identity verification, and things started happening, right?
Yes. Yes.
So that's where I started doing few consulting with firms and all. I became a part of one of the company called Invoid that got
Okay.
YC funded, right, as a
Right.
consultant.
Right.
And somehow I was able to drive almost 80% of revenue from my end only, right? That was an amazing journey I got into. And somehow they got acquired by Bureau ID. And Bureau
Okay. Okay.
is still in the same space.
Yes. Yes.
I became a director over there to head the sales over there. I ran that specific function for almost a year, right? And then I thought, let's just start by my own, right? And
Got
then
it.
that's where the BeFISC came into the picture. I
Okay.
saw a lot of
Okay.
gaps over there. Yeah. So that was
Amazing
a
story.
quick journey from my education to, starting the BeFISC.
Yeah, I think there are so many things that stand out, right? So one is probably the will and the determination to build or to learn a new space, which is, like you said, not familiar to you, or not because of not familiar because of the background or the place that you come from, and the fact that you've been able to contribute so significantly to companies, really understand the space, and then have the conviction to say that, hey, yeah, now it's time for me to do this on my own. I think there are a lot of things that we will be able to learn from the kind of things that you did well, which we'll come to a little later in the podcast.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, would love to kind of take a deep dive into your company and your product. And I understand that you're building around KYC and the fraud prevention. So yeah, let's introduce BeFISC on the podcast. What exactly are you doing? What is the problem that you're solving? And what was the gap that you identified in the market that you want to fill with BeFISC?
Correct. Okay. So let me just first tell you, BFIS stands for Beyond Financial Score, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
When we got into it, right, I realized
Okay.
that there is a huge gap when it comes to identity verification. Uh,
Okay.
so right now, to tell you what we do exactly, we provide different kind of APIs, right, that help most of the lenders or banking
Right.
units to actually verify the customer on a deeper level, right?
Okay.
So we are actually creating a complete holistic profile of the customer and the merchants in the business verification to make sure that whoever you are onboarding, you actually know the customer better. It's not just the identity that you have to verify, you also have to understand the customer journey that has been there from the start, right? So we are giving some kind of data points which will help them to understand customer better overall,
Okay.
right? So it's completely API infrastructure that has been built. Anyone can just come in, take the API. It's plug and play APIs, right, that can be used in the market,
Understood.
right? So that
Understood.
was a quick thing about the APIs that has been built. But yeah, ultimately we are solving one of the problem. We started with identity verification, and then we
Okay.
started solving the fraud prevention problem that is there.
Okay.
We
Okay.
started figuring out the use cases that is there for every small product line in the borrowing or the lender's journey,
Okay. Okay.
right?
Got
So
it.
that's how we started. Yeah,
Got
things.
it. So, Shobit, I think this is the first point I would like to double click and really focus for a minute or two around. So, when you say KYC or when you say fraud prevention, of course, you and I understand this.
Yeah.
But for somebody who may not understand this, can you break it down, saying, okay, what exactly is a KYC? How does it work, or what are the mediums or methods for us to do a KYC? Who uses KYC? And also a little bit of a background on fraud prevention, because everybody's now aware about, oh, there are so many scams happening in the country. People are constantly messaging you on WhatsApp, SMS. People are getting calls. uh, Companies are getting defrauded. So if you could just take a minute or two and deep dive around these two, so that we set the context for the future, the conversation that we're going to have.
Yeah, yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So the main part is most of the people nowadays know the KYC. KYC
Okay.
stands for Know Your Customer, right?
Right.
RBI has given multiple guidelines to verify a customer. Before this digital era came into the picture, the KYC or the Know Your Customer was happening via face-to-face verifications, right? banks or NBFC were sending some few agents at your
Yeah.
home or your office
Yeah.
addresses.
Yeah.
You have to give your documents, or you have to come to the branch to verify yourself that you actually exist and you are the same person
Absolutely.
to whom you are claiming to be, or what, right?
Yes.
So this is one of the thing that how the KYC gets started, right? Uh, After 2016 something, like digital KYC came into the picture, and in the COVID time, it actually boomed, right? Uh,
Okay.
so in the digital KYC, whatever the identity proof the individual can have, that is PAN card and Aadhaar card, right? That has to be verified via digital mode, right? PAN
Okay.
verification can happen from the NSDL APIs, and Aadhaar verification can happen via UIDI portal or UIDI based APIs. So that is there. Generally, the KYC stands for verifying yourself, that you are actually the same person, right? Based on your identity that you provide
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
process. So nutshell, that this is what we call a
Yes.
KYC,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
When the
So
KYC started, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So basically, have a follow-up question. So typically, we have a proof of identity and a proof of address. So if you could just take 10 seconds to explain that as well.
Yeah, proof of identity generally stands for PAN card, and proof of address any document that has the address, but the popular one is the Aadhaar card that has been taken as a proof of address nowadays. But any card that has the address can be taken as a proof of address. Right now,
Got it.
we have five different identities of an individual in India. That is, one of them is a PAN card. Second one is Aadhaar card. Then there is driving license, voter ID, and passport. So these are the popular five identities that are there. But when it comes to rural areas, they may not be having such identities. So the ration card came into the picture, and that can be, covered as a identity proof of yours.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. And so then let's talk about fraud, right? What exactly is fraud prevention? और पहले चीज तो fraud क्या होता है? And what is fraud prevention?
Right. So fraud may not be the same that I'm going to tell you, because fraud can be done from different ways. I mean, there are hundred of ways that the one individual can actually do the fraud, right?
Okay.
One fraud can
Absolutely.
happen just via theft identity. That is very common. Just
Okay.
taking the identity and putting it on the portal and getting yourself verified as claiming that this person is me, right?
Okay.
And mostly it started from, to be very precise, the photocopy shops, right? The identity you generally go there, you actually copy paste your identity, you take the printouts, and your identity
Yes.
has been taken by the Photoshop guy as well, and then
Oh,
they are using it. That's how, like almost 5-6 years back, that's how the fraud started happening. That was the initial,
interesting. Okay.
right? That's how the people get your identity. Initially, you are just giving your identity like anything. It
So
is,
basically, दुकान वाले भाई साहब ने extra copy
yeah,
छपवा ली और they started using it at other
that
places.
was very common. So generally
अच्छा.
popular जो fraud places होते थे, that was Photoshop copy shops, and the another one is the SIM card, wherever you're taking a SIM card, right?
अच्छा.
You have to hand over your
हाँ 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 हाँ. Right.
identity to take a SIM card. So
Okay.
that is the best place जहाँ पे आपको बहुत identity मिल जाता था, and anyone wanted to
Oh,
fraud, वो ₹5
भाई
₹10 में
साहब.
तब identity sell होता था उस time पे,
My God. Okay.
right? Right. You will never
Got
get to
it.
know how many SIM card has been issued on your name, or how many things that has happened on your name,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
It's pretty
Now,
scary.
yeah, I think the scariest part is actually now. Initially, the digital infrastructure was not there, right? So to do the fraud, you have to actually put more efforts.
Right.
Because of the digital infrastructure, the fraud also become very easy. You can just sit
Okay.
in one room and do the fraud.
Yeah.
Initially,
Yeah.
the fraud will be happening physically. The fraudster have to come out
Yeah.
from his
Branch
home.
में जाना पड़ेगा.
Yeah, branch में जाना पड़ेगा. You have to do multiple other stuff to
Right.
make sure the fraud have to take
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
Right? But now it is very easy. Like you just sit in a room, you are just tech savvy and understand how the identity work, understand how the platform works, and you get into it in their system, see the loopholes, and make a leverage of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's how the fraud started happening, and now it is on a very different level.
Yeah. अभी तो यार I often say जो scammers है और जो fraudsters है, they are the outsourced or the extended QA arm for a lot of fintechs and BFSI players. So they're always one step ahead of you, na? So
Yeah.
you always and that is the nature of the game. Criminals will always be one step ahead of law enforcement. So it is for up to companies like yours and ours to really be able to outsmart them or to find ways to say that, yeah, this is a known pattern, let's not fall for this. So
I think
it's
a very
very
interesting
interesting.
fraud did
Yeah,
that
yeah,
came to our
please.
understanding like
Yeah.
almost 3 days back. Like it's not been
Okay.
so many days. It's three
Okay.
days back. We got an identity. We have to verify it. We did the verification, and everything was correct. The bank statement was legit. The identity was legit. The customer was salaried. He was having, he worked in I think 22 companies in just 5 years. So that was a
Wow.
shocking thing how a person can work in 22
Correct.
companies in just five
Yeah.
years
Yeah.
and has been credited all the time. Like people are just checking
Acha.
if the salaries are there or not, CIBIL score is correct or not, identity is correct or not.
Correct.
Like, but not beyond that. There
Okay.
is nothing beyond in terms of identity that can be proven, right? When we figured it out that there are 22 companies the customer has worked in and all of them are MNC somehow. And
Okay.
all of them has actually submitted the PF in his account.
Oh.
How is that even possible that customer has worked in 22 companies in just 5 years of tenure
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and PF has been submitted like 2 months PF and then 1 month's PF and all that. Like he kept
Notice
switching.
period ही इतना होता
Yeah.
है.
So that is
Yeah.
not just, summing up to the thing that customer can be legit, right? He
Yeah.
just built
Yeah.
the entire profile like almost 5 years, and he must be doing it this fraud with other companies as well, right? So that was a very interesting fraud that we came across.
Got
And
it.
the problem is the identity is correct, the bank statement is correct, the CIBIL is correct, everything is aligned.
But
And
ये,
that's why, yeah, it's just
yeah,
EPFO portal that would be able to tell you that there is something wrong.
interesting.
So I mean,
Interesting.
it's just you have to link together every bit of information and
Yeah.
like think differently.
That is the best part of the day and age that we live in today. कि यार information available है. It's a matter of how do you interpret this information, and that can uh, save you from a lot of issues.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So, yeah, Shobit, let's deep dive into the KYC industry or the fraud prevention industry. So, if you could very quickly run us through what are all the different ways of doing a KYC. We briefly spoke about POA, POI, and I'm sure a lot of users would have gone through journeys, right?
Yeah.
But would love to understand what exactly is the BeFISC product stack like, and how are you helping companies? So, if you could briefly give us that walkthrough, I have a follow-up question about digital public infrastructure that's available in India and the role that companies like you can play in this ecosystem. So,
Yeah.
पहले आप एक दो मिनट के लिए if you could just give us that brief, then we'll deep dive into the
Definitely,
next part.
definitely. Right now, what we are trying to do is, I mean, as we already discussed, there are multiple identities that are there. What we are trying to do is, we are just adding every identity that is possible from of a one customer and figuring out if there is any insights that can help us to understand if this is a fraud or if this can be a fraud. When I say if
Okay.
this is a fraud, it's a direct insight that we can leverage from the identity proofs or from the different kind of sources that are there, right? When I say different kind of sources, it could be EPFO portal, it could be GST, it could be MCA, or any other governing authorities who actually save the customer's data if the customer has applied over there, right?
Right.
That's one part of it. But can be a fraud is an intentional fraud. Like I'm a genuine customer, but still there is something that has happened, and I'm actually not able to pay back the loan somehow, and
Okay.
there
Right.
is an
Huh.
intentional thing that is happening, something like that.
Yes.
So this is something we have built a product line as well, that we call it a continuous monitoring of an identity. Nowadays,
Okay.
when we say continuous monitoring, it has been popular for the transactions only, it has been popular for the anti-money laundering, but not for identity, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think this is something that has to take place in India. It's very underrated right now. If customer is taking a loan as a salaried person, and now the customer is actually registered himself over the GST portal, or MSME portal, or started doing some kind of a business, right? Lender will never get to know this information, right? Because they believe that
Correct.
customer is still
Correct.
salaried, and this is one of the indicator that your loan will get default. Maybe not, maybe yes, it will get default, but there are high chances that it will get default because your loan amount that has been given can be used.
Absolutely. Ha. Galat. It's probably, but that's the thing about what I've understood in the market. यार ये, what is the right word? There is this dichotomy, if that's the right word to use, कि today people are having side hustles. right? Somebody is doing a 9 to 5 job, Monday to Friday they're working, Saturday, Sunday they might be making art and selling it, or they could be
Yeah.
doing a lot of things. So there is no proper, if you actually break down and go a step further, in India, it's unfortunately very difficult to have specialized product ki yaar hobby ke liye personal loan le raha hu.
Yeah.
At the same time I'm an employee or whatever, right? So for example, for me to run this podcast, I don't have sponsors, right? So if I have to put in money and then take a loan and all of that, and I somehow do an udyam on this, it could highlight. But yeah, so I think what it kind of highlights in my mind is that as a lender, you always have to be careful. It's always better to do some extra due diligence to
Yeah.
find out ki yaar, is everything okay or not, and then say like, theek hai, everything's okay, it's not a problem. But having that flag coming, having that system giving you an alert saying that hey, isko check karna ek bar, is going to help you probably prevent and reduce the incidence of something going wrong.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes. That is correct.
Perfect.
That's
Yeah.
what we are trying to solve. So continuous monitoring should be popular in identity space as well, not just for anti-money laundering and
Yes.
transaction monitoring.
Very interesting.
Right. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not against that you should not do the side hustles, but I just wanted to make sure if the person has taken a loan on salary, right? So they should have taken a loan on that they are doing something in businesses and then take
Correct.
a business
Correct.
loan instead of the
Yeah.
using that
Yeah.
money,
Yeah.
the lender's money, right? It's not your money, right? Ultimately, you have to pay back that amount. But
Yes.
forgetting that part is a big problem.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We are. I completely. I think this is more of a, the way I look at it. Right, this is my personal opinion. It's a macro problem because we don't categorize it properly.
Yeah.
For example, I took a car loan a year ago. I get so many calls saying, "Yaar, top up loan le lo, top up loan le lo."
Mhm.
What will I do? Car ka loan already is running. I don't need extra money to pay for
Don't
the
keep a
car.
loan.
So so why will I take a top up loan? And if I do, what will I use it for? I'm not going to pay off वो top up loan लेके pay off the primary car loan, and then मतलब that's not making sense. So I'll use it for working capital for me ना. मुझे घर का renovation कराना है, चलो करो, right? So uh, it's very difficult to actually track down the exact use case for which a person is taking a loan. But I think that is part of the problem that you and I can solve, uh,
I think there is
hopefully.
one more thing, Ronak, I wanted to highlight in this entire
Yeah.
conversation is people are talking about supply and demand, right? When
Right.
we say
Right.
supply, the borrowers are there, right? Sorry, demand is there, like borrowers are there, and then there are multiple companies who are providing such kind
Yes.
of loans, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Ultimately, who's thinking that the customer is able to pay back? So payback is another terminology that is missing in the supply demand in the lending industry. So paying
Makes
back
sense.
capacity, right? Paying back capacity has been completely trusted on CIBIL, completely trusted
Ha.
on sector
Absolutely.
bank
I
is not
agree.
good enough. Right?
Yes.
So that
Correct.
is something I think also can come into the picture, and
Absolutely.
there has to be
And
something to solve this.
the other problem that I see in that side is reporting नहीं होता है, or at least now things are changing. But up to a couple of months or a year ago, a lot of lines were not being reported in the right way. अगर वो line कभी activate ही नहीं हुआ था, even for 2.5 years, the line used to be active. So I think there's a this is my opinion. Tell me whether you agree or not. I think there is a very severe cleanup of the entire CIBIL data, or not just CIBIL, entire credit report data in the industry. Today we have only 4 players in India, right? So you need to really clean up, and probably the four of them need to sit together and merge the data.
Yeah,
Because there are instances where you will find a credit report of an individual on one bureau, but you will not find it on the other.
other, yeah,
And a lot of lenders have built their entire rule engines on one bureau, so their entire scoring is very different. So while you can see that there is a loan and there is a default on one bureau, because this lender is not considering that bureau, they are blind to this default and they are falling into this trap. So I think it is the responsibility of the bureaus to really merge this data,
come together
because
and do this together,
है ना?
together, right, right.
Or somebody who can create a layer above the bureaus needs to do this and really
The
flag.
framework that you recently talking about, right? The framework that is coming in India, like account aggregator framework, the
Yes.
ULI, Unified Lending Interface that
Yes.
is coming in
Yes.
India, right? So I think they should come into the picture properly for the CIBIL scores as well. We call
Yeah.
it CIBIL.
Yeah.
Now CIBIL has become so big that we call it CIBIL score, though it is a credit score because CIBIL is
Exactly.
already
Yeah.
there.
CIBIL is synonymous.
Yeah.
Financial services का Xerox हो गया है.
And
But
Xerox, we call it Xerox, but Xerox was not a photocopy initially. Xerox was a company. who actually
Yeah,
lost the photocopy.
exactly. So, but yeah, I think it's interesting that this has happened. But yeah, now that we've come into this side of the conversation, na Shobit, so यार running a KYC company is hard. इतने सारे competitors है. It is such a commoditized market. And on top of that, you have digital public infrastructure that is available. So as a lender or as a fintech, there is probably a DigiLocker that is available to you. If you're regulated, you have access to CERSAI, CKYC. If you're in the wealth space, you have access to KRA.
KRS.
So there are so many. You can be a sub KUA if you're a PPI license or if you have the license. So if you're regulated, there are so many options. Now, NPCI has just launched eKYC Setu and
Hmm.
everybody's talking about it. You mentioned about ULI, you mentioned about account aggregator. So in a market where I don't know if the right term is the government, but in a market where there is so much public digital infrastructure that is available for regulated entities, how does a company like BeFISC navigate this industry, and how do you look at these products, and how as a strategy, right, for any aspiring entrepreneur or a fintech entrepreneur listening to this, how do you navigate when your regulators or when your industry bodies run by governments who are not for profit are getting into business and eating your lunch? How do you go about this?
Yeah. So the infrastructures that are there, if it is account aggregator, CKYC, ULI, which is coming in right now,
Yeah,
right? Uh, Most of them are not that customer friendly, or you can say the
right.
fintech friendly
Okay.
or regulated REs friendly. When I
Okay.
say that, what I mean by that is to consume that data that has been provided by such entities is difficult.
Okay.
So that is why
Okay.
the term that is very popular in nowadays in India, that is TSP, technical service provider. That's came
Right.
into the picture, right?
Right. Right.
Ultimately, even though the framework is there, even though the data provided by the government to REs, but still they are not able to consume it. That means
Makes
there
sense.
is a lag, there is a gap that has to be fulfilled, and that's where our kind of player come into the picture, and we help them to consume the data in a proper way, right?
Right.
If you will go to the account aggregator, and
Hmm.
you can, it's very difficult to combine all the 15 license holder account aggregator at one place and
Correct.
pull the bank statement of the customer, right? That is very
Agreed.
difficult right now
Agreed.
for a lender. So our kind of TSPs actually come into the picture and making sure this is happening properly, right? And this is also a business for us. So obviously we are good in tech, so we help them to make sure that you do your best because you're good in lending. Government is doing their best keeping the data at one place. We are good making sure these two actually are aligned, right?
Makes sense.
Making
Makes
a bridge
sense.
between them.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
that's how the BeFISC kind of company is actually coming into the picture. And we are also figuring out many use cases which maybe the government had never thought about, right? The use cases that has to be solved for the lenders, but just providing the data is not solving the actual problem. Actually creating the insight above it, actually creating the
Right.
source
Right.
above it is actually will solve the problem.
Right. Right. Right.
So
Makes sense.
I can highlight one specific use case in this industry. Take an
Yes.
example of
Yes.
account aggregator. Okay,
Okay.
they are popular. Initially, they have started with the bank account statement that you can take by giving an OTP, right? Whatever the bank that is linked to one
Yeah.
mobile number, right?
Yeah.
Now the problem is you customer is giving you consent to take that bank statement for next 6 months or 1 year, and you can
Correct.
continuously pull that bank statement.
Yes. Yes.
But nowadays they are just the lenders are taking the bank statement and using it one time, not doing the continuous monitoring on their bank statement, right? If there is anything that is happening on the bank statement, the salary is not coming, or some other kind of spends that started happening, maybe the customer has taken a loan and it started spending on gaming companies, right, on poker and all,
Right. Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So those small elements are very important for lenders to understand how the customer behavior is,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
It will not be dependent on the statement that is a past statement, but now what is
Huh.
happening, that is important. Once you have given a loan, once you have disbursed it, right, that is still not solved, right? They are not
Makes
pulling
sense.
it.
Yeah.
They don't know
Yes.
how the workflow would work.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's there. I mean, these are the problems that are there in the infrastructures that has been built.
Makes sense. Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. I've, in fact, yeah. So there are so many things that in India need to be streamlined for this to work effectively. For example, the other day I was at a shop and I bought some things and I tried to pay using UPI. and उसका जो QR कोड लगा हुआ था with the name of the shop ना, when I scanned it, I got an error saying इसका limit हो गया है, like he could not receive any more UPI payments. He gave me a pet shop wala QR code. I don't know whether it's his own other shop or what, but the QR code he pulled out, Paytm का एक QR code ऐसे निकाल के like इस पे कर दीजिए. And I was like, यार क्या चल रहा है, right? I'm buying something else. This guy is giving me a pet shop. I don't have a pet. Like, what the hell is happening? But there are companies who will be monitoring कि यार रौनक ने पैसे कहाँ खर्च किया, पेट शॉप पे. अच्छा, like, so I mean this is a very a benign example of what's happening in the industry, but there needs to be so many things that are streamlined so that we can be more effective in the work that we do. नहीं
Yeah,
तो, because if these kind of things happen, it becomes very difficult for any good analytics to come out of it.
yeah,
But the idea of monitoring this on a granular transaction level is very interesting. And I assume that you do it and you give out a flag if you find any bad patterns or
yeah.
if you find any red flags.
Correct, correct, correct.
Makes sense,
And
sir.
as you have highlighted the UPI thing, I can
Huh?
again add one more use case. I have
Yeah,
recently
yeah.
written it in for one of the article as well. That
Okay.
is UPI, right? You can create a UPI from your mobile number, and that is very easy to crack what
Makes
UPI you
sense.
have right now.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
easy to, right? So if I will start sending you auto pay request, how would you stop me? There is no way, because there is just a single line code that I can write on any of the payment app to send out on multiple contact numbers for an auto pay,
Correct, correct, correct.
right?
Huh?
If any one of them by mistake, they are not aware of it
Approves.
and they just approves it and just put
Yeah,
their pin code, I would be
hmm.
able to get the money in single go,
Makes sense.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And data is very cheap in India, right? You can just go on Google and just download the entire contact numbers out there, figure out the UPI IDs, write a single line code and just send it to hundreds of people. I don't know if I have just told something which is happening in India, जो अभी बाकी लोगों को नहीं पता था, but that's how the fraud is happening. It's very easy to do by
हाँ
sitting
यार,
in one room.
एब्सोल्युटली. डेटा तो है यार अवेलेबल.
मतलब if I'm just sending it to, so suppose 10 million peoples in one go,
या
right? उसमें से 1% भी अगर उन्होंने अप्रूव किया,
या
yeah,
नहीं वही है यार, like I completely agree, which is why the more I've gotten deep into KYC, I've realized that yaar, my mobile number that I'm going to use for my banking, for my transactions, has to be different from the number that I use for everything else.
communication setup.
You go, like, for example, you go to a restaurant and there's waiting and you give your mobile number there. Who knows what's happening with that data?
Yeah,
You go to any tech park today, you can't enter without giving an OTP for a meeting, right? Who knows how the data is being utilized, whether willfully or without their consent. Data leaks are happening. UIDI itself was attacked. So how secure is anybody else? So I think this
I think
financial
that could be one of
safety.
the reason that
Yeah,
UIDI come under the NPCI now, and they have launched the
yeah,
eKYC Setu,
makes
which is
sense.
again for the same product that they have launched
Yeah,
before. That is Aadhaar
yeah,
XML
exactly,
verification or offline
exactly.
Aadhaar, we call it,
वही तो
right?
यार, वही तो.
वही same चीज को they have put it under NPCI.
Yeah, yeah. But I think, yeah, the way I've looked at it, financial security is as much our responsibility as it is of the company or the government or any other stakeholder.
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day, if people are not educated, and RBI and AMFI and everybody is trying their level best to educate the audience, but yeah, we everybody needs to get educated, and I think that is going to be the central point for us to focus on to ensure that frauds reduce. j- जब तक बकरे हैं,
actually said it
people will
very
key.
correctly, because UPI people start using at the age of what, like 5 or 6 or 7, like
Yeah,
use like uh, uh, you know the 10-year-old boy can have a
correct,
UPI, right?
correct.
And
Yes,
they may
yes,
be going on multiple places and paying it from UPI, and they
makes sense.
not having that awareness how how the fraud can happen with them,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right? Or maybe the aged low, right? Aged
yeah,
people out there, right? They may be feeling the same, right? They are not aware about the technologies. They are using the UPI
exactly,
nowadays because everywhere there
exactly.
is a UPI, right?
Yes,
So like giving this information correctly is important, right? How
makes
how
sense,
to
sir.
use it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, this is good. I think probably we'll change gears now. So we've had like very detailed conversations, but abhi say I want to kind of have like a sort of a rapid fire round with you. ठीक है? So uh, tell me, like, in your journey so far, when did you start? How old is your company today? What give me some metrics or whatever you're comfortable to share about, just to summarize your journey so far.
Yeah. I'm happy to tell about the numbers normally in public as well. Reason being is so other people should come up and start something
Right.
else. And that is one thing I have learned, that we should keep inspiring others to make
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
they should come
that's
from their shell
very
and start doing
cool.
something, right? Because I
Absolutely.
know a lot of people out there in the product management and all that, and they have a very deep knowledge. They can build something good in this market, but they are not just coming out. They are in their comfort zone, have that deep
Yeah,
knowledge
yeah.
about the product line. They have that deep knowledge about the scoring systems. They know that the company vision is not aligned with them, but still they are working over there instead
Can
of
I just
starting
can I
directly.
just tell you, just to interrupt you here for a minute, यार कभी कभी ना, I'm sure you will agree with me on this, जितना आपको knowledge था before you started up, your knowledge would have increased multifold after you started up. Sometimes you learn on the way, you learn on the journey. So, and everybody has imposter syndrome here. I feel there are 100 people better than me doing this.
Yeah, true.
Everybody feels that they are not the best, but yeah, it's just to kind of add on to what you said. My learning of whatever number of years I've been doing this has been ki yaar, if you want to start up or if you have that kida in your mind, please do start and you will figure it out on your way. If not, you would have learned something. है ना?
Correct, correct. That's
Yeah.
how it is. That's what we call it entrepreneurship, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
cool. So to tell you about the journey, right? We started 1.5 year back. We got
Okay.
registered in 2022 December. We launched
Oh.
on 5th March 2023. It's been 1.5 year. Yesterday, actually,
Okay.
we have closed one and a half
Yeah.
year,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, and I I got blessed with a baby boy on 5th of March only when we launched it. So my baby is also is
Nice. Yeah.
one and a
Nice.
half year
Nice.
old now.
Double dhamaka. Congratulations. So
Yeah,
you had two babies on
yeah,
5th
correct.
March.
That's what my wife say. You have twins.
Seriously. Nice.
So, like in 1.5 year of journey, first thing that we did is we are able to manage our business bootstrap, right?
Wow.
We are completely bootstrap.
Fantastic. Yeah.
We are
Awesome.
profitable, and like
Yeah.
we are doing things in the right way, right?
Amazing.
Okay, so we are not we are actually pushing for hyper growth, that is there,
Okay.
but
Okay.
within our limits, like,
Sure.
so we are
Yeah.
comfortable with, right? We are making sure the employees should not suffer, we should not suffer, our business finances should not suffer. We have
Yeah.
maintained that balance. That
Sure.
is right. So it's 1.5 year. Right now, we have 78 clients
Wow.
within 1.5 year, and
Nice.
most of them
Completely
are
bootstrapped. That's amazing.
fintechs, completely bootstrapped. Yes.
Okay.
We are in this year. We are on a track of closing $2.5 million. Right, that is there.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay.
Still, when I started this business, a lot of people told me like it's already a saturated market. There are
Yes.
40, 50 odd players that are already working.
Yes.
There are five,
Yes.
six big players. All of things are there, but
Yeah.
still, I thought there is still a gap. Right, India is a huge market. इतना population है, कहाँ यूज होगा? 40 कंपनियां, मार्केटिंग की कितनी कंपनियां, लाइक एवरी स्ट्रीट हैव अ मार्केटिंग सर्विस कंपनी और रिक्रूटमेंट कंपनी और आईटी सर्विस
Yes. Yeah.
कंपनी.
Yeah.
Fraud detection में when there are 40 companies who are telling us it is saturated, how come it's not?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not. Still there is a
Yeah.
gap. You can do the innovation, you do the things in a better way, and you will actually find your way.
I agree.
So that is
Yeah. Yeah. Although it's a very audacious thing, I agree with what you're saying here. Just to very quickly follow up, have you thought about what is the total addressable market for KYC and fraud prevention risk, all of that in India? मतलब आपने कभी
yes,
सोचा
I
है
can
या?
tell you in numbers exactly.
Uh-huh.
When I started this business, before that, I did some research before actually
Okay.
starting. So at that time, I did the research of for 2 years, and I
Okay.
was able to get the data beyond that. So in last 2 years, that is 5,000 crore market that is there in India only.
क्या बात कर रहे हो?
Yes,
Okay.
इतना पैसा already earn कर रहे हैं vendors, and it's not 40-50 vendors. There are multiple other LMS LOS companies who are
Ha
actually
ha ha.
providing the
So
services.
can you just tell me what are you including in this number that you just shared?
It's all fintech enablers. I'm just taking
Okay,
tech
got it.
companies who are providing any kind of KYC, KYB, identity verification company, nothing else.
So this includes someone like a Finbox as well?
Yes,
Okay, ठीक है.
because ultimately वो एक SDK के through whatever the services they
हाँ,
are, but
they are an
KYC
enabler
provide कर रहे हैं,
for
they are
access
enabler,
to
right?
players.
Right,
हाँ,
right, right. But ultimately उनका जो 30-40% रेवेन्यू है, आई गेस वो KYC से ही होगा, या 40% प्लस रेवेन्यू उनका KYC से ही होगा. So keeping their revenue half, right? अगर मैं वो सारा टोटल भी करूंगा तो it's around 5,000 करोड़, right? So we did that research, और जब हमें लगा और
wow.
फिर हमने ग्रोथ चेक किया, then we realized it's 35% year on year. So last year,
Hmm.
whatever the amount was, that increased to 35% सीधा, right? So it's growing market. और ये 2020 से ही ग्रो होना स्टार्ट हुआ था, right?
Right.
So 35% growing market with a good margin of product line that you can provide in the market, right?
Okay,
So why
got
not?
it. Got
Let's
it.
just get into it and figure out the things, right?
Makes sense.
When we
Makes sense.
started figuring out the clients, right? तो हम
Okay.
लोगों ने पूरा एक system बनाया. We figured out कि how many prospective clients that we can have, how many NBFCs are there, banks are there,
Okay.
companies are
Okay.
there, fintechs are there, or insurance companies or all that stuff.
Right.
We found very interesting thing. That is, we are telling them that KYC has been stabilized, but they are just doing PAN or Aadhaar verification, not beyond that. So how come the KYC has been stabilized? KYC
हाँ.
में सिर्फ हम include करते हैं because PAN और Aadhaar is there,
Yes.
right? तो जितना भी NBFC है, उसमें से how many percentage of NBFCs actually implemented the entire stack? Very less. The percentage is
I
very less.
agree
Just
100%
PAN
on
और
this.
Aadhaar verification
Correct.
suits बनाया हुआ है, but
Correct.
आगे कुछ भी नहीं है. So still you have
Correct.
huge opportunity to build the insights and all those details, right?
Agreed. Agreed.
तो
Agreed.
अभी भी बहुत बड़ा मार्केट है. आई स्टिल फील दैट विल गो लाइक, मतलब अगले 2 से 3 साल में, नेक्स्ट टू 2 to 3 years, इट विल क्रॉस इजीली 12 to 15,000 ईयर. 15 करोड़ के ऊपर का मार्केट आराम से होगा ये.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, makes sense here. Makes sense. But what I've realized is it's a heavily commoditized market, yaar. So margin pressure is there every day. So is
That is a
there?
very interesting thing, Raunak. Before you move forward with this statement,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
like to highlight there are 40 to 50 odd players, and
Yeah.
how many of them are built it in-house? That is the question.
Correct.
Are they distributors or are they suppliers? Who are you competing with?
Absolutely. Yes.
So every email provide, like, मतलब take an example of anything कि उनको अपना right competitor नहीं पता है. So if I include myself, right, I don't uh, take those people into my competition even who are distributing the product in the market
Sure.
instead of
Yes.
building it. So मेरा
Yes.
competitor वो है जो in-house बना रहा है, who have built
Makes
the
sense.
technology in-house, right? And when we started doing that thing, तो we realized कि केवल 4 से 5 player है. So
Okay.
that's to 50-60 players that exist.
Correct.
They are
Correct.
not my competition even. I know
Absolutely.
revenue side pe they will be on a very high side, but they are not my competition. So I have to keep my mind clear that you are not actually competing with the 50 or 60 odd players. You are competing with 4 or 5 only,
Sure.
right?
So you have
that's
that
how-
focus.
yeah, we have that clear focus on that.
Sure. Makes sense. नहीं, but yeah, so I think because ultimately क्या हो रहा है ना, because of the number of players that are in the market, it's so easy for a customer to say, यार ये तो ये rate में दे रहे हैं. Do you want to come in? Do you not want to come in? Then you're like, ठीक है यार, क्या मतलब, what is this? You're never happy with the deal, right? Nobody is ever happy with the deal.
Innovations as well, Ronak. मतलब वो आप happy because customer obviously अपना budget तो manage करेगा, right?
Yeah.
Customer को चाहिए कि जितना भी cheap price पे मिलेगा,
Correct.
we should get it. मुझे अगर कुछ भी cheap rate पे
Correct.
कहीं भी मिल सकता है, I will do it.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
Right? That is a
And
possibility.
Abhi to you also started in this journey where it's a down market, so everybody is trying to get their unit economics to fit into their forecasts and predictions and make sense for their business. But yeah, you were saying something.
So like obviously I was just telling you, like, everyone actually wanted things on a cheaper rate. Yeah, everything wanted
Correct.
to
Yeah.
make sure that things are actually aligned.
Yes. Yes.
That is तो तेरा. That's what I'm saying. Like, so it's okay. I mean, customer are correct. Like, अगर मिल रहा है सस्ते में कहीं भी, let's do that ना. Why not?
Yeah.
API
Yeah.
plug and play है, change कर लो vendor.
हाँ.
क्या
Absolutely.
problem है? You have to figure out the right vendor ना, पता है. It's okay.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
that's not the problem. The problem is if the players are not innovating. So whoever the player are innovating in their existing APIs,
Okay.
tell me how many player have introduced any new data point in the same API and tell the lender कि भाई आप सेम रेट सेम एपीआई यूज करो, मैं दो और डेटा पॉइंट दे रहा हूँ विच विल हेल्प यू टू अंडरस्टैंड बेटर. किसने किया आज
Makes
तक?
sense. Makes sense.
राइट. मैं दो डेटा पॉइंट और बता रहा हूँ. आई एम टेलिंग यू दैट दिस कस्टमर दैट यू आर वेरीफाइंग अ पैन इज अ टैक्स पेयर और नॉट. मैं एक डेटा फील्ड आपको इसी एपीआई में विद द सेम रेट ऐड करके दे रहा हूँ विच विल हेल्प योर लैंडिंग जर्नी बेटर.
Makes sense.
राइट. नो वन
Makes
डिड.
sense. Yeah. Yeah.
राइट.
Yeah.
तो वो एक पार्ट है कि हम एट BeFISC वी आर ट्राइंग आवर बेस्ट टू मेक श्योर कि हमारी जो एक्जिस्टिंग एपीआई है उसको इनोवेट करो, दो डेटा पॉइंट और डालो विच विल बी हेल्पफुल फॉर देम. लेंडर को यूज केस समझाओ कि आप इस तरह से इसको सॉल्व कर सकते हो एंड यूज इट. आप अपनी
Yeah.
सीम
Yeah.
जर्नी में देयर इज नो एपीआई इंटीग्रेशन, टेक्नोलॉजी पार्ट पे भी कोई चेंज नहीं है. आप
Makes
यूज करो
sense.
ना दो और डेटा पॉइंट. तो
Makes sense.
कि कस्टमर विल स्टे विद यू ऑन दैट पार्ट.
Makes
They will
sense.
not come to you and tell you कि यार कोई और वेंडर है मेरे पास में चीपर रेट पे दे रहा है, we will change it because they know कि
हाँ.
after 1 month 2 months
Value.
value addition हो गया. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah. Yeah.
now
Yeah.
companies started thinking about customer.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think really I'm able to now get an insight into how you're thinking about KYC and how you're thinking about these problems. So, Shobit, if I were to ask you, ki in this whole journey that you've had building BeFISC, what is the most interesting insight that you were able to discover, which of course you can share on a public forum, uh, of what is something which is very innovative, or what's a gap you can fill, or what's that one insight that was like,
I have
man, ye kya hai?
I'm not able to solve that problem yet, but there's a
Okay.
big problem that is there.
Okay.
Everyone is trying to figure out a fraud,
Huh.
right? And that is very like 0.1% of the total default. So the other default ratio that I was initially talking about, right? Customer is taking risk, and maximum default is happening because of that.
Okay.
Wo part has not been covered. That part specifically, right?
Got it.
Default ratio is a very big thing. Default ratio को two parts में divide करते हैं. Fraud
Okay.
एक part हो गया where the customer is completely vanished and
Ha ha ha.
the identity is wrong and all that. And there
Right.
is a huge part where the customer actually defaulted because of multiple reasons.
Okay.
Collection platforms जितने भी हैं, right? हमारे पास में आज इंडिया में, I think they can do better on that part.
Okay.
And I think KYC side se bhi there is a continuous individual monitoring that has to be stabilized from government.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, I'm
Yeah.
very bullish about that specific part. Why? Because this will actually solve a huge problem. अगर मैं परसेंटेज में बात करूंगा, जनरली
Makes sense.
डिफॉल्ट रेशियो आपका 4 to 5% मैनेज करने का ट्राई करते हैं लेंडिंग कंपनीज.
Okay.
इफ इट इज गो बियॉन्ड 7% to 10% से ऊपर जाता है या 15% आता है तो कोलैप्स ही हो जाता है कंपनी. सो जनरली वो डिफॉल्ट रेशियो मैनेज करने का ट्राई करते हैं, राइट?
Okay.
अब
Got
वो
it.
डिफॉल्ट रेशियो में फ्रॉड भी होता है और इंटेंशनल लाइक the customer defaulted, the genuine customer
Yes.
defaulted, right?
Yes.
Both type of people are there. So
Yeah.
why we are focused only on fraud? Why we are not focused on the other part of it,
Yeah.
right? So because of the fraud, वो downsize हो गया है पूरा कि
I
default
get
rates
that.
हो गए basis पे,
Yeah.
right? Everyone
Yeah.
know the Just Money का story, right? That happened. So
Yes.
like even Dhani, right? That India Bull वाला जो हुआ था.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are multiple cases that we have nowadays where we can do the case study and understand what are the best solutions that can be given.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So, yeah, Shobit, you've been doing this for a year and a half, Abhi.
Mhm.
3 questions. What is the mistakes that you made that you've learned from? What are the things that have worked well? Because obviously, you're profitable. You're at like a very decent and respectable revenue run rate. So obviously, there would have been things that have gone right and wrong. So if you can just take a minute or two and just walk our audience through these 2 points, that would probably be a good segue into the next segment.
Yeah. So what we did wrong? That's the easy answer actually. We did multiple things which were wrong actually. Everyone
Okay.
do that. Whoever is starting
I'm
their
sure.
own business
Yeah.
today, they will
I'm
be
sure.
doing multiple mistakes.
I think everybody makes mistakes. There's
Yeah,
nobody who's not making
biggest
mistakes.
mistake is not being shameless. Right?
Okay.
Now we are shameless. Shameless when I say that most of the people actually have good connections, right?
Okay.
People think that they don't have connection, but they have, right?
Mm-hmm.
लिंक्डइन पे कनेक्ट होगा, फोन
हाँ
फ्रेंड्स का फ्रेंड होगा, या
हाँ
कहीं ना कहीं यू हैव कनेक्शन, बट
हाँ.
यू डोंट यूज दोज कनेक्शंस. you you
I
you
agree
you are not
100%.
being shameless and going out and asking people for help. Asking
Right.
for
Oh
help is
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
big thing, right?
Yes.
Go out
Yes.
there. नहीं करेंगे, मना कर देंगे. You have to be, strong enough to hear no. That's okay, right?
Yes.
But you should go out there and talk to people and solve your problem,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
right? आपको
Absolutely. Yeah.
आपको फंड लेना है, बट you're just figuring out कि VCs ही मेरे को आके फंड देंगे या एंजल इन्वेस्टर्स ही देंगे. अपनी फैमिली में जाओ ना आसपास, फिगर आउट. मतलब मेरे चाचा मामा का कोई शोरूम होगा, स्टेबलाइज बिजनेस होगा, व्हाई नॉट टेकिंग फंड्स फ्रॉम देयर? गिव देम द पे बैक ना ऑफ इट, राइट? वो
100%.
भी
I
अर्न
mean,
कर रहे हैं ना कहीं इंटरनली, तो
correct,
दैट इज
correct,
देयर,
correct,
राइट?
correct, correct.
नॉट बीइंग शेमलेस इज अ
Yeah.
बिग.
Yes. 100% agree. यार. इस पे, in fact, this is something that I have spoken about myself on a couple of podcasts where I've been on as a guest, and this is something that I've implemented across. When you're young, when you're growing, when you're ambitious, talk to everybody, yaar. In fact, some people na, they spoke to me whole conversation 45 minutes. They're like, chalo theek hai, ye sab theek hai, normal, let's figure out a way forward. फिर at the end I'm like, यार सुन ना, मुझे 5x grow करना है इस साल, so how can you help me? Can you connect me to your friends? Can you connect me to your colleagues? Can you like, how can you help me, right? How can you help me to grow? And that itself gave them an look into who am I as a person, right? And they're like, यार let's work with this guy because he's ambitious, उसको कुछ करना है जिंदगी में. Whereas you talk to some other guy who's like, oh fantastic, पूरा सूट वूट पहन के many years in the market, but उसको कुछ करना नहीं है, मजा नहीं आता है working with them. So I 100% wholeheartedly agree with that. Yeah.
Second point, we did wrong. We have corrected that
Okay.
part. That is
Okay.
not speaking about your product,
Okay.
right? So most of the company they wanted to work on the stealth mode. यार ये stealth mode क्या होता है भाई? काम कर रहे हो या नहीं कर रहे हो?
Right.
मतलब
Right.
ऐसा क्या चिराग है जो छिपा रखा है और अभी निकलेगा? So let's just, if you're building something, maybe you will get the validation very early, right? And maybe you will improve your product instead of just putting 1.5 year or 2 years in the stealth mode and then realizing कि यार ये तो validate ही नहीं कर रहा market में, right? Talk about it.
Nice.
And people think कि idea copy हो जाएगा. Ideas are cheap in India. Execution is difficult.
Idea is, yeah,
It's
100%.
just
Yes.
spoken on execution,
You're right. You're
right?
right.
जो आप
Yeah.
execute कर रहे हो, if I'm giving you an idea, the other founder would not be able to execute it. Their thought process will be different. It's all about vision.
Agreed.
It's all about
Yes.
your thought process, your
Yes.
upbringing, the way you bring the vision from there, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You can't match that. So I
Makes
think
sense.
talking about the product is very important. Stealth mode में डालना तो मतलब मुझे लगता है कि वो अपने business को खुद ही kill कर रहे हैं half of the time.
Correct.
That's again, it's very individual thinking. That's my thinking.
No, yeah, actually, this is something very interesting. Thanks for bringing this point out. Nobody has brought this point forward on the whatever episodes we've done up till now. But yeah, it's a fresh opinion, and that's what we are here for. So, maza aa gaya.
Yeah. So stealth mode, I mean, these are the two mistakes we have started
Yes.
speaking about on the platforms nowadays a lot.
Great, yaar.
पिछले
Great,
3
great,
महीने से हम
great.
लोग ट्राई कर रहे हैं अपने को मार्केट करने का. Not as in
Nice.
marketing. We are just putting the truth out there. Like if I'm going across one of the emotion or incident today, I'll just put it on LinkedIn tomorrow. Okay,
Got
exactly
it.
raw. ये ऐसा था, ऐसा हुआ, kind of, right? Instead of just manipulating it with the
Superb.
words and all. तो जैसा है वैसा हम लोग डाल
Yeah.
रहे हैं. We are just
Yeah.
trying to make sure कि
Nice.
exact emotion बाहर आना चाहिए उसमें.
Good. What about things that have worked well for you, or what is the one thing that you did which worked really well? I think you already kind of covered it in your mistake itself, but is there anything else which you would like to share?
That worked for us.
Ha, like anything that you're like, अरे यार ये किए
Figuring out a
suddenly.
right co-founder. So when you're starting a business, right?
Yeah.
You have to think कि आपका जो दोस्त है वो आपका पार्टनर हो सकता है, ये जरूरी नहीं है. Because you
हाँ.
get a vibe together doesn't mean you will get a vibe when you're doing business. Right?
Makes sense.
So a lot of business actually broke when they have the clashes. So it's very important you have your boundaries set, and
Right. Correct.
you should find the right partner or the co-founder for that.
Yeah.
Right?
Makes sense.
It's almost fine doing an arranged marriage. So making sure everything is aligned.
True. Yes.
कि thought process
Agreed.
बाद में पता चलता है, but बाकी factors को आप मतलब ignore मत करो.
Right. Makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, awesome, yaar. Awesome. So, Shobit, my next question is, what inspires you or motivates you to get out of bed every day or get to office and do what you're doing? What is that one factor that is really driving you?
So I never had that ambition to start a company. To be very precise, I came from a working culture, family, and all that stuff.
Okay.
Right? Although my father is actually into the business, small part and all that hardware business, but the entire structure that is there, the entire environment that I grew up. So that was all job wala thing. कि job ही
Okay.
करना है आगे जाके और you have to get a good score. Academically, I was bad.
Right. Right.
भाई 40-50% आ रहा है, don't feel bad, you will do good.
हाँ.
मतलब
Agreed.
हम भी
Yes.
वही से हैं, ठीक है.
Yes.
From a small town with a average percentage, that's okay. You will be competing with IITians, IIMs or Harvard, that is completely okay. You would be
Hmm.
able to do that. वहाँ पे कुछ
Hmm.
नया नहीं है, एक साल में सीख जाओगे,
Hmm.
ठीक है.
Hmm.
मतलब ठीक है, you just keep doing the things. That's one part that I wanted to highlight. तो
Nice.
मतलब वही है इसमें.
So you want to आपको करके दिखाना है basically.
Correct.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Keep doing it, things will be aligned automatically. मतलब वो पता
Nice.
लगता है जब आप करते हो,
हाँ.
आपको चीजें ओपन
I
अप
agree.
होती हैं,
I
राइट.
agree.
यू विल गेट टू नो कि आपको आपका राइट टाइम क्या है. इंस्टिंक्ट आपको बता देता है कि अभी मतलब दिस इज द राइट डिसीजन दैट यू आर टेकिंग. आपके एम्प्लॉइज कई बार आपके साथ अलाइन नहीं होंगे कई सारे डिसीजन पे. दैट इज आल्सो ओके बिकॉज अल्टीमेटली यू स्टार्टेड योर ओन कंपनी, राइट. यू हैव हैड समथिंग इन योर माइंड जिसके लिए आपने स्टार्ट किया. इट्स ओके,
Yeah. Yeah.
राइट. सो टेक योर हार्ड
Yeah.
डिसीजन, दैट इज ओके. मतलब डूइंग थिंग्स इज फाइन.
Very it's so fresh and interesting to see somebody being raw and being like यार ये है ये सच्चाई इसी का यही है कि बस there's nothing fancy, there's nothing अरे Elon Musk बनना है Steve Jobs बनना है. It's just very raw and truthful and honest to yourself and what you want to do, and having that nature transpire into everything that you do. I think that's my understanding of
Correct.
you from
Whatever
this conversation
you're
that we've
doing,
had.
whatever you're doing, yes, I mean, do the best thing that is possible and learn
Yeah,
other functions as well around you. So the problem is, हम लोग,
exactly.
suppose if I'm in sales, I will be doing sales only. Then that is a
Right,
problem.
right,
If you will not
right.
understand the product better, right, how the product is
Yes.
getting built, then you will miss out on a lot more things. Ultimately, who are very good sales people may, I mean, that is again my thinking, may not be able to found a tech product, right? Because
Sure.
they are not
Yes.
getting into the product in that deeply. मतलब वो सेल्स पे ज्यादा फोकस कर रहा है. सो आई थिंक व्हेन यू आर सेलिंग समथिंग, यू एक्चुअली ट्राई टू सॉल्व द प्रॉब्लम एंड गेट इनटू द प्रोडक्ट
Depth.
डीपली. या.
Correct.
So
Correct.
that
Correct.
is
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
important
Yeah.
in any kind of things, right?
Yes.
So and then you will figure out a way कि अभी मतलब मेरे को प्रोडक्ट समझ आ गया है, and that's how the market
Yeah.
works. I
Yeah.
think this
Yeah.
idea would work or not. काफी सारे
Yes.
वैलिडेशन आपको मेंटली खुद ही मिल जाएंगे. You
Makes
don't
sense.
need to
Yeah.
go to
Makes sense.
people and ask for the things.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Fantastic. This brings me to the last question, and we have to talk about this. So it's a very quick question that we'll do, and we'll wrap up. Uh, have you used any AI tools that have improved your productivity that you're implementing in your tech stack anywhere? Or also, I want to understand what is your tech stack like, because we are talking about fintech and we spoke a lot about the fin. Na? Tech के बारे में ज़्यादा बात नहीं की है. So if you could just take a minute and share anything that you've discovered or any new stack that you're using which you're very excited about, that we can just end on that note.
Right. So bots is something that we are trying to build. That is
Okay.
AI bots. When I say AI bots, it's not something that can be built directly. But हम लोग कुछ we are trying to build something around insights. So when we say identity, right, there are multiple insights that can be driven from one of the data point or five of the data point based on the
Okay.
specific product, right?
Okay.
उसको करने के लिए initially there were Python code that has to be written and all that. Nowadays it is getting very easy because AI came into the picture.
Yes.
So we are trying to actually create bots. When I say
Okay.
bots, it's not chatbot. It will directly go into the code. It will
Mm-hmm.
understand the lender's product, right? वो insights उस bot में पहले से डाला जाएगा. And then that bot will help you to understand कि आपने ये data point miss किया है, which will help you
Okay.
to understand financials of user better.
Okay.
Right. So what I'm trying to say is we are trying to combine 3-4 things together. There are bank statements, there are credit reports that are there. आपके credit card का transaction history आता है, आपका CIBIL report आता है, but there is no product that can combine all these three together and build the insight about it.
I get it. Yeah.
Right. So if
that's
you
what.
will start building it via Python code or any other technology, that will be very difficult, because ultimately that keeps changing. उसमें कोई
Yes.
एक
Yes.
systematic function नहीं है which can align all these
Yes.
three things, right? So
Yes.
like we are building AI bots to make sure these 3 or 4 different statements can be aligned together,
Right.
match the how the transactions are happening, uh, if it is aligned or not, if there is some
Yeah. Yeah.
anomalies that can be detected. So we are building bots for it,
Got it. Got
बिकॉज
it.
वो सिर्फ क्योंकि हम लोगों ने 4 पैटर्न्स डिटेक्ट कर सकते हैं, 8 पैटर्न ह्यूमन वाइज हम 8 पैटर्न डिटेक्ट कर लिया, 20 कर लिया,
Okay.
राइट? उसी को हम लोग लॉन्च कर सकते हैं, बट वाया एआई यू वुड बी एबल टू डू मल्टीपल थिंग्स, बट आपको एक सेट पैटर्न बनाना है उसमें।
Understood. Understood. So, would you be able to share the name of a model or something that you're using so that people can read up about it?
There is no specific model that has been
Okay. Oh, you're building
we are
your own.
creating yeah, we are creating our own for that, right? We are not taking it from
Interesting.
there. Yeah. तो वो
Nice.
पूरा,
Nice.
because that doesn't properly exist exactly
Okay.
based on the
So you
transaction.
need to
Yes.
build it from
Because
scratch.
जितना भी AI मॉडल्स आए हैं, ज्यादातर they are working on the chat bots or they are working on
Generative.
the generative वाला ज्यादा है,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
इमेज
Yeah.
जनरेट कर लिया या, बट डेटा के लेवल पे इंसाइट्स जनरेट करना फ्रॉम 3 डिफरेंट रिपोर्ट्स इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट। आई नो गूगल हैव ट्राइड इट, कोई एक उन्होंने प्रोडक्ट अभी रिसेंटली भी लॉन्च किया है गूगल ने, फॉर दैट आई हैव स्टार्टेड यूजिंग इट, बट उसमें कुछ ज्यादा वैल्यू मिला नहीं मुझे, राइट? आई
Makes
स्टिल
sense.
फील कि उस इफ आई एम पुटिंग माय 3 डिफरेंट बैलेंस शीट आउट देयर, they are not
Yeah.
able to pull the right numbers for me. They are not
Got it.
matching all these 3 things together. But अगर single report, I mean to say single report में, right? They
Hmm.
want to get the insights, they can do that.
Makes sense.
But combining 3 together is difficult.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, this has been one of the most, like I said, breath of fresh air wala conversations that I've had in a long time, and it's fantastic to see a new approach or a new idea being built and evolved with what you're doing. Um, yeah, I wish you all the very best for the kind of innovation that you're trying to bring into the market, the new thinking and the new thought process that you're trying to bring out. Yeah, I mean, fantastic to see some new innovation happening in the space where now innovation is becoming very difficult and very less.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for being on the podcast. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, and it's been an absolute pleasure having you and having this discussion with you. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you
And
so much, Raunak.
yeah, all the best to you and your team.
Thank you, Raunak. Thank you.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Fintech Quotient's Spotlight. Do share your feedback, thoughts, ideas, and even your fintech stories with me. Your feedback will help us to do better. Our social media handles are plugged in the description below. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, don't keep it to yourself. Spread the fintech fever by sharing this podcast with your friends, colleagues, and anyone passionate about fintech. Until next time, keep those insights flowing and let's build the future of fintech together.